So there was only one thing to do: find out just who is colluding with the vampires and give them some Malawian justice. Some tourists were killed by residents suspected to be colluding with vampires to collect human blood. A police spokesman said, "We are reminding people that rumours about bloodsuckers have been there since time immemorial, but no case has ever been proven." And good on the local villagers, who insist that the police are just hiding the truth, as many people in the district are not sleeping, which is presumably not connected to all the drumming and shouting that they do during the night to frighten the vampires away. Because of the vampire attacks on Malawian villagers, the US Embassy in Malawi issued a security message for US citizens. Please review your personal security plans, remain aware of your surroundings, including local events, and monitor local news stations for updates. Maintain a high level of vigilance and take appropriate steps to enhance your personal security. Despite the US warning about vampire bloodsuckers invading the country, the Malawian police chief remained in denial and said that people should reject rumours of bloodsuckers, saying, "Currently nobody has died for being sucked of blood here in Malanje. Some people have just created the story to breed fear among communities. We would like to assure residents of Malanje that they are protected and that police investigations are underway to find the root cause of such and to get to the bottom of the matter." The district commissioner for Malanje said the rumours have brought a devastating effect on people since residences have always been anxious about strangers in some areas and that they were sleeping outside of their homes for fear of having their blood sucked. A spokesperson for the United Nations said, "Well, that's what they would say, isn't it?" and referred to a Human Rights Watch investigation that demonstrated that Malawi had been overrun by a vampire elite. And short of sending garlic and crosses, nothing further could be done. The next day, in the neighbouring district of Falombe, 2 ambulances that were thought to have been carrying the bloodsuckers were smashed up by concerned citizens. One of the ambulances belonged to Malanje and was coming from the capital to drop off a suspected vampire. Despite the vigilance and extrajudicial killings conducted by the local villagers, no vampires have yet been discovered. An investigation by Malawi News discovered that the locals had failed to catch the vampires because the vampires were using magical powers, magical shape-shifting powers, which turned them into cats or dogs before disappearing. It was also revealed that these weren't just any old-world vampires that used their teeth to suck people's blood. These were actually super advanced Wakandan vampires that used some kind of technology which involved the initial spraying of chemical or some electric powers to weaken the target before sucking the blood. And the blood sucking is alleged to be done using some remotely controlled gadgets. The locals describe the blood-sucking process as being complicated, saying one can be sucked from a distance through the window or roof. 3 strangers were burnt to death after the locals found them with a bag containing slings, benzene, gloves and other sharp metals, which are believed to be part of the sucking equipment. A clerk said, "The bloodsuckers are real. They've been to my house. They sprayed their weakening chemical, but we noticed it earlier and managed to escape. My eyes were hurting and I ran out of breath." It's alleged that the vampires are from Mozambique, and they can't be arrested because they're using strong magical charms. Many villagers came forward to give their accounts of having their blood sucked by the fully automated luxury space vampires. One single mother said, "I felt a needle getting into my forehead's flesh. The rest of my body was numb. I struggled to touch my forehead. I felt a hot, sharp injection like metal. I alerted my brother, who was also in the same room. The thing was quickly removed. Everything happened so fast." Another single mother said that an attacker had entered her home and sucked her blood in the Thiolo district. "This is not hearsay," she told a fascinated crowd in her village in the country south. "I know my blood was sucked. I saw light on the corner of my roof. I failed to stand up from my bed and I felt something piercing my left arm." Given the apparently medical nature of the vampire attacks, it's no wonder that doctors have been identified as the most likely people in Malawi to be vampires. Groups of concerned citizens have enacted revenge on the vampire doctors, who are easily identified because they are carrying stethoscopes with which to suck blood. Their thralls, otherwise known as medics, have also been robbed and had their vehicles smashed, and ambulances have been attacked as their victims were taken to the hospital. The Society of Medical Vampires in Malawi said a case of mass hysteria was sweeping the south of their country that has led thousands of people to believe that there are doctors in their midst. They claim that no health worker can suck blood with a stethoscope, with another vampire adding that there is no evidence that they are really vampires, despite the fact that they all carry stethoscopes. By the 3rd of October 2017, it had all become too much for the citizens of Malawi. Groups of concerned citizens had killed 6 people suspected of trying to obtain and drink human blood as part of magic rituals since mid-September. A police spokesman and notorious vampire denialist said, "There is no evidence about the bloodsuckers. We blame local communities for taking the law into their own hands," adding that local people targeted victims because they were believed to be seeking blood for spiritual rituals. There is no evidence of bloodsucking and nobody has come to the police to complain. The Malawian government was forced to intervene and claimed that there were no vampires in Malanje. It was just a ploy. A ploy meant to tarnish the image of the Democratic Progressive Party by those who do not wish the government well. The prevailing vampire paranoia situation in Malanje and the surrounding areas has the potential to derail our efforts in promoting our country as a tourist destination, but also preferred destination for foreign and direct investment. While this may be true, it fails to explain how the vampire doctors are sucking people's blood with their stethoscopes. Because after all, if there were no vampires in Malawi, why would the UN pull their staff from the country? As the UN Department on Safety and Security state, these
faz por o United Nations faz isso com boas intenções, faz isso para criar overpopulation para depois invadir a Europa. Eles fazem estas medidas primeiro para esconder tudo mal que fazem, e a segunda razão é para criar overpopulation que depois arrasta mais imigrantes vindos de Sub-Saara África para a Europa.
Districts have been severely affected by the ongoing stories of bloodsucking and possible existence of vampires. And if the Malawi government wasn't controlled by vampires, why would they impose a curfew because the vampires are being killed? The curfew restricted movement to 10 hours per day, from 7 AM until 5 PM local time, exactly the daylight hours in which vampires cannot operate, leaving the vampires free to operate at night with impunity. The UN even identified the source of the vampires, saying that they originated from Mozambique and spread across the border to Malawi through the districts of Malanje and Falombe. Finally, the president of Malawi said that he was going to crack down on the international vampire conspiracy and the witchcraft that they are performing. President Peter Mutharika warned suspected vampires to stop terrorizing people and told village chiefs to stamp down on witchcraft. He said, "If people are using witchcraft to suck people's blood, I will deal with them, and I asked them to stop doing that with immediate effect." After the president confirmed that there was indeed an epidemic of vampires plaguing Malawi, groups of concerned citizens killed 2 more people, one of which was an epileptic man who was torched. This led to Malawi becoming a veritable police state, as the police arrested 140 members of so-called lynch mobs who were delivering justice to the vampires, with the National Police spokesperson telling the BBC that patrols had been stepped up in the areas affected. Western media outlets naturally placed the blame for all of this on white people. As Vice magazine states, in colonial Zambia in the 1930s, Africans claimed their blood was taken.
É sempre a colonização. Estou sempre a culpar a colonização, apesar de ter sido a colonização a melhor coisa que aconteceu a Sub-Saara África. E a pior coisa que aconteceu aos países colonizadores, por uma perda de dinheiro, uma perda de impostos. Eu não sei, em Vila Conde existe uma réplica de um típico barco dado durante descobrimentos. Eu acho que as pessoas não têm noção como a vida de um marinheiro dessa altura era má. E a maior parte deles morriam durante a viagem.
And their bodies left for dead to make cough drops for Europeans. Can you think of a better description for the exploitation of luxuries for white people? In post-colonial East and Central Africa, there were many stories that blood was sold to this or that country in exchange for weapons. There were some who denied that there were any vampires at all in Malawi, claiming that this hysteria was part of a symbolic representation of life. In a paper titled Deconstructing Mediocrity, Vampires, Victims and National Hysteria, John Luanda suggests that to understand the roots of these superstitions, we must look beyond the beliefs themselves to the underlying structural conditions in the areas which they emerge. The roots of the current vampire hysteria lie also in the current state of law and order.
Tem que sempre culpar os europeus porque não podem ser responsáveis pelas suas próprias defeitos.
Moral order and socio-economic conditions in Malawi, and not just, however, ingrained cough drops for
O testemunho africanos que mal conseguem se lembrar da sua história, passado meia década, uma década, não é? Não conseguem saber o que é que se acontece, não é? Acreditam que são nativos de Moçambique, não é? Não sabem que, não é? Não sabem que são nativos daquela zona, daquela coisa, não é? Não são capazes de ter uma história escrita, não é? Não é? Né, e que tem uma dificuldade de manter registado e manter preservada a sua própria história, é que nós temos que acreditar nessas testemunhas. Esta já viram essa, agora vamos ver. A primeira é de Moçambique. Não, é esta. O que é que os invasores do nosso território Moçambique, não é? O colonialismo foi a melhor coisa que aconteceu à África, a pior coisa que aconteceu aos europeus, porque somente depois de nós termos sido expulsos dos próprios territórios que nós construímos, que nós criámos, e que não eram habitados, tirando os outros e Cambinda em Moçambique, o que é que eles fizeram com o território que nos foram roubar, que eles nos roubaram?
Welcome to episode 3 of All Cultures Are Beautiful. This time we head to the exotic African nation of Mozambique, known for its tropical beaches, its sweeping cities, and vibrant native culture that can only be filmed
As prédios foram construídos ou pelos europeus ou por agora os chineses que agora estão a começar a construir.
in 480p by a toaster. While the people of Mozambique are friendly, warm and welcoming, one must remember not to be shocked at the cultural practice of whiteface, which, despite being offensive, must be understood.
Que isto é imitar os nossos, porque eles imitam a história do whiteface, pintar a cara, porque, não é? Porque lembram-se dos deuses, os primeiros portugueses chegarem lá, que introduziram aquela quantidade toda de comida em África.
In the progressive context of fuck you whitey. Mozambique's strong commitment to diversity can be seen in the native treatment of albinos, that is, people suffering from a condition in which their skin lacks pigmentation.
Pelo menos encontrar uma maneira de se livrar dos albinos.
Mozambique is leading the way in procuring a final solution for the melanin deficient, with sufferers of
A maneira que os albinos encontraram uma solução para o problema dos judeus.
albinism being
A mesma maneira que os alemães encontraram na Segunda Guerra Mundial, encontraram uma maneira de resolver a doença de ser judeu. Estou a brincar.
480p by a toaster.
Tempo atrás que e agora vou tentar não interromper.
Welcome to episode 3 of All Cultures Are Beautiful. This time we head to the exotic African nation of Mozambique, known for its tropical beaches, its sweeping cities, and vibrant native culture that can only be filmed in 480p by a toaster. While the people of Mozambique are friendly, warm and welcoming, one must remember not to be shocked at the cultural practice of whiteface, which, despite being offensive, must be understood in the progressive context of fuck you whitey. Mozambique's strong commitment to diversity can be seen in the native treatment of albinos, that is, people suffering from a condition in which their skin lacks pigmentation. Mozambique is leading the way in procuring a final solution for the melanin deficient, with sufferers of albinism being declared by the UN to be at the brink of total extinction. This is due to the native witch doctors proclaiming that the limbs, organs and genitals of albinos can be harvested to bring wealth and good luck, if the spirits of the ancestors are to be believed. Indigenous scientists have discovered that albinos are created either through the infidelity of the mother with a European, or through possession of the albino by the ghost of a European colonist. But the discoveries don't end there. In June of 2017, it came to light that in central Mozambique, bald men are literally being headhunted because of the cultural belief that the head of a bald man contains gold. Further investigation into this new branch of science reveals that Mozambique's top social scientists might be misleading innocent natives for their own gain, in an attempt to gather more body parts as a small business venture by enterprising witch doctors for international business deals. If we've learned one thing from the spiritual and enriching culture of Mozambique, it's that it's okay to kill people if you can make money from their death. Just imagine how much the huge domed skull of a bald white man could be worth. If you're a well-travelled European citizen of the world, don't forget to cover up.
Agora, Libéria, lembra-se daquele país que estava a falar que era que foi fundada por pela América para dar um território novo, dar um território à população de ex-escravos na América durante recém-libertados, não é? Dar um território que foi durante 10 anos foi uma colónia da América, depois ganhou a independência, depois foi dada a independência, não ganhou, foi dada a independência. Pronto, este vídeo não é de Uganda, mas eu vou mostrar um vídeo dele. Deixa eu ver esta Uganda.
Omanyi emyaka gye mabega egyo giba mizibu nnyo okugoberera kufa abasajja bakulu, naye nga bw'omanyi ekintu babawo omuntu akikuteekamu. Nali nina mukodomi wange ebugere eyo, mukodomi wange nga ngenda nkyalayo.
Over the last year, in Uganda and neighboring Congo, Vocative has collected numerous online reports of cannibalism. The infamous Ugandan warlord Joseph Kony, one of the most wanted men in the world, has long been accused of dining on his enemies. And in political circles here, allegations of cannibalism are often used as a smear tactic. Even Trenton, New Jersey never gets this tough. But we're still skeptical. So, we went in search of a cannibal. Our destination, Western Uganda, where 13 people were arrested in March, accused of murdering a pregnant woman and her child, then eating them.
There was blood, there was hair of the other woman who had been eaten, and plus clothes, shoes.
Abantu kati bagifuulidde ddala nga tteeka kubafa batambula ekiro tusanga ebintu bingi basanga batwala abafu okubalya kati batandise nabatema nga balamu so kati okulya abantu tekikyebuusabuusibwa era abantu tutandise okwekolako security nga tuyingira obukyali kati saawa zino situli bubi abantu mu kitundu wano kati tebakyatya okutambula.
In this country, where more than 80% of the people are Christian, some communities have begun to fight back, destroying the homes and businesses of suspected cannibals. We're on our way to meet Babula, who is a self-professed cannibal. He is, however, against the recent murders and claims that he only eats previously dead people. Very important distinction, apparently, in the cannibal culture. Let's check it out.
Claro, bem, a doença do curi-curi, que é uma doença em que um prião cresce no cérebro e é doença de vacas loucas, mas para humanos. E é por causa exatamente de eles praticarem canibalismo.
Abantu bano okubalya oluusi wabaawo eddagala abantu bano abatandika okutuliisa abantu batandika
utilizam coisas como magia e feitiçaria, trocaria.
bannaffe abo kati omanyi ebyo ebibinja byaffe byanjawulo kati mulimu bano babamanyi okugjayo ate mulimu bagireetera obuleetezi kati nga nze ze bandeetera buleetezi n'endya kati enkola yaabwe bo bajjayo naye ng'ate esinga okuwooma bw'omufuna omuntu ayafunira mulamu akyentegeeza omuntu n'omufuna nga mulamu gwe n'omwesalira ate oyo aba wanjawulo
kati okyagirya oba walekeraawo
okugirya kuno era nga bwomaisi byangu.
Podem dizer mal que quiser dos nazis. Eu também não sou a favor dos nazis. Mas que eu me lembro, os nazis nunca comeram judeus. E nunca andaram a praticar canibalismo. Nunca andaram a tentar comer os franceses. Pelo menos a comer com a boca. Não sei se... Pelo menos os franceses... Olha!
Gira kole sijja kiri awo naye nga tebiikako nayo munanga bwolaba.
Agora, eu quero vos lembrar que Libéria é uma espécie de colónia americana que foi não é a tal história dos escravos. Eu queria relembrar os escravos que foram levados para a Libéria. Queríamos lembrar disso da Libéria. Queria lembrar que a Constituição da Libéria é exatamente a mesma Constituição da América, tirando depois algumas emendas que foram mais recentes. Mas é exatamente a mesma Constituição da América que a América tinha em 1800 e... Vamos ver aqui, já vos digo. Em 1847 tem exatamente a mesma Constituição dos Estados da América que os Estados da América tinham em 1947. A Constituição é exatamente igual até... Opa.
The other people, you are not an exception. You tell us at the moment.
Não se esqueçam disso. Exatamente a mesma Constituição. Os 10 anos que estiveram com colónia na Meca foi só construir as cidades e a capital e ajudar a formar um governo e a construir a Constituição. Reparem nisso, violencia news. Como é que os ingleses com os seus impostos estão a pagar?
And right now too.
What
do you do with the Liberian people money?
É uma situação assim parecida com a RTP África.
What? That like him, That the medicine you want to use the venture. What did you do with the Liberian people money? That is fake. Sit down, talk. You stubborn, eh? You my man. I'm not stubborn. What happened to you? I mean, so but we want you to confess to the Liberian people.
Assim é difícil perceber,
You into
mas
it? Yeah. Alright. Well, let's get into this one. Close your eyes on this one and vibe with me. Became a coon and boom, boom, boom. And knock on his door, his heart is no more. And knock on his door, his soul is no more. You folks think I got my prize.
não esqueçam, Libéria está em guerra civil, tem a mesma Constituição que a América.
Just sell that is mine. Sing it to him, Tracy. Money rules and all else fails. Money rules and all else fails.
É claro que tem que ocupar o computador.
Alright, well, let's get into this one.
Em vez de ocupar certos tipos de grupos, tinha que ocupar o capitalismo em vez de... Mas se forem aqui... Vamos aqui a um vídeo em que ele...
During the 2016 election, one of the most effective memes pushed by President Trump was his putting yourself at risk of having your personal information. Tifa, I have no doubt they would win when this happened. Again, an organization that very to Charlottesville. The FBI have fought back. Trump administration has done that relates to South Africa is the nomination of Lena Marks, a handbag designer born in South Africa, to take over as the new ambassador to South Africa. Trump opened with great promise on South Africa, but nothing ended up coming of it. We've no timetable for this supposed investigation, no information about who will be involved, no indication that it's actually happening, nothing. It seems like Trump promised this investigation land and farm seizures and expropriations and the large-scale killing of farmers to FBI, but when radical Antifa leftists are throwing piss bottles and bricks and rock, promised this investigation this order. He has a favorable Supreme Court, and for the next 2 years, approved several budget deals so far in his presidency that did not include wall funding.
Agora não tenho aqui, não encontrei nenhum vídeo sobre a Libéria, mas se vocês virem, pesquisem Libéria. Agora estou um bocadinho... Ao contrário daquele vídeo que estava a dar, que era feito por pretos e pronto, não era realista. Libéria não tem nada a ver com dinheiro ou com pessoas a financiar a guerra, são guerras tribais. Que é o que os presos costumam pedir. Costumam criar tribos depois. É o que acontece. Não se esqueçam, Libéria é um país que teve 10 anos como colónia dos Estados Unidos da América e que tem a mesma Constituição que os Estados Unidos da América e, no entanto, está em guerra civil há mais desde os anos 80. Está em guerra há mais tempo do que eu nasci. Eu nasci nos anos 90.
Hello and welcome to another episode of All Cultures Are Beautiful. This time we'll be dealing with a crisis in the landlocked West African nation of Burkina Faso. Because Burkina Faso has a real problem. People keep stealing penises using magic. And understandably, the local men are not happy about it.
O país que antes de para chegar não tinha ninguém a viver, muito menos pretos.
In fact, they've begun to take the law into their own hands and lynch any man accused of stealing another man's penis. An example of this happened in 2014, when a man was killed by a mob in Koudougou, a town in central Burkina Faso, after being accused of making another man's penis disappear. As a local journalist reported, the lynching took place in the 10th district of Koudougou. It all started with a fight at a restaurant between two men, with one accusing the other of having cast a spell on him by simply touching him. The accused man was a foreigner, and his accuser called the police. But before the police could arrive, a crowd had gathered around them, and incensed, the residents decided to lynch the man in the middle of the street. The police arrived and did all they could, but apparently there were not enough of them to control the crowd's anger. And so the alleged penis thief met his demise in the middle of the town, for the high crime of stealing another man's penis using witchcraft. This is by far the only allegation of penis theft in Burkina Faso. The journalist says, "Since then, I have counted a dozen similar cases in the city, and it's always the same story. Someone complains about being approached and touched by a stranger, someone not from the neighborhood. Immediately, the alleged victim complains of lower stomach pains, tremors, and say they can't feel their genitals anymore. This only happens with men, and I've been told of it happening in several different parts of town." Although the crowds were quick to anger and lynch the penis thieves in order to discourage other alleged thieves, when doctors examined the victims of the penis thieves, they couldn't find anything wrong with them. As in, their penises were still intact. These allegations are not new and have been happening for at least 15 years in West Africa, causing nearly 300 deaths and 3,000 injuries in the region. Upon investigation, it was found that this is actually part of a scam, where con artists, usually in groups of 2 or 3, carry out this scam in 3 parts. First, someone who claims to have magical powers touches a victim and persuades him that they've stolen his genitals. Then another accomplice approaches the victim and drives home the point, saying that if the victim doesn't buy a specific product, he'll lose his ability to reproduce. Finally, the victim pays a hefty sum of around €45 for a Viagra-like medicine that is supposed to make his genitals work again. But in the defense of the poor, innocent and beautiful people of Burkina Faso, they weren't to know this, and lynching someone for stealing someone else's penis is probably a fair and appropriate punishment. I'm sure we can all agree.
Agora,
Alright, everyone, I think I just talked about.
no outro país em que só a população que há, graças aos europeus, isto a acontecer.
Ebola yesterday or the day before. Now we've got more Ebola news actually right now, which is that another worker there was killed. Not a foreign worker, but one of their local sort of trainees. They've been training small groups of people, especially in the smaller outlands areas that they can't effectively do anything in, on how to sort of respond when there's an Ebola case, how to quarantine, the basics of sanitation and shit. Coordination and communication with larger centers so that you can get like serums, so you can get vaccines to an area that might be afflicted. It's not working too well though, because a mob attacked the Ebola center and started looting it. Now, I'm not 100% sure whether it's been confirmed whether there were Ebola patients there at the time, but if there's ever been an Ebola case in this particular clinic, there could be some contamination to worry about. Yeah, probably a bunch more people just gave themselves Ebola. Again, because of their fucking civil war over there. I'm not sure exactly why the world...
da cultura provavelmente da civil. É mais qual a cultura deles que qual da guerra civil lá.
Community thinks it's a good idea to stand by, looking at the powder keg, looking at the fuse already lit, and not even try to stomp it out. It's like they just don't give a fuck.
A solução é simplesmente deixar eles morrer com a Ebola. Porque foi assim que durante milhares e milhares de anos o vírus não espalhou e praticamente não existia, não é? Apanhava uma tribo qualquer, morriam todos os membros da tribo e não se espalhava mais o vírus.
It's actually very mysterious to me at this point. Why didn't you learn from the West African Ebola epidemic a few years ago when something like 20,000 people may ultimately have died? Tens of thousands of...
Até que gosto de dizer é horrível, mas é a solução melhor. Antes dos europeus chegarem, é isto que acontecia. O vírus... Lembras-te quando eu falei daquelas tribos que eram por aqui, tic, até sentinela lá eram... As tribos que estavam aqui, tic, desapareceram, de maneira a parecer que, subitamente, não é? Estavam os tribos que eu falei, um bocado cuidado, tic, e depois coisa. Essas tribos morreram exatamente com a Ebola. E essas tribos, tic, que vão para aqui para os outros, ou tic, para a caminha, as tribos que se formaram entre esta zona aqui, e Lesoto e coisa, também as tribos que se formaram coisas desapareceram com Ebola ou fome, e aquelas que formaram-se que estavam numa zona com melhor agricultura, que eu não tenho agricultura, mas com melhor comida, melhor caste, melhor ingredient.
Others infected. Some of these people have lingering symptoms. It's like the bubonic plague or something. They're riddled with disease for the rest of their lives too. And be a disaster if it escapes containment. And at this point, it looks like it probably will. It looks like they're going to sit by... They're shipping in serum and stuff that shows some degree of success, okay? Like 10-20% reduction in the death rate. That's good. That means there's human beings left over, you know, after this all blows over, even if it goes total pandemic mode. But... you know, how much serum do you think you can make? And as far as the vaccine, it's still in its experimental testing stage. They've mass deployed it, and they say that shows some degree of effectiveness. That's not really going to matter. You have a civil war going on. You have cases, I'm sure, plenty of them. You probably have twice as many